Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're tackling a concept that, well, many of us probably think we have a good handle on: human-centered AI.
hmm
The idea you hear everywhere, designing AI systems that really put human behavior, human experience right at their core.
Enhancing our capabilities, operating ethically. It all sounds very sensible.
hmm
Necessary, even.
Exactly. Sounds like the obvious goal, doesn't it? But the sources we're digging into today introduce a pretty radical twist.
They really do. They suggest that actually the human element is so fundamental to every AI relationship, whether we see it or not, that the term human-centered AI almost becomes, well, redundant.
Redundant, how so?
Because it's this often hidden human cognitive labor, this ghost in the machine, that truly underpins what these systems seem to do.
So, what if that whole premise of needing to make AI human-centered is kind of misleading?
Precisely. The argument is AI has always been human-centered, just
Mm.
not in the way we usually frame it.
And understanding that hidden human element is maybe the real way to make AI actually serve humanity.
That's the core idea.
Okay, so this deep dive, then, is about uncondensing time. We're going to peel back the layers on our assumptions about AI, look at some surprising examples, and get maybe a clearer view of what's actually going on.
And hopefully navigate the future a bit more critically.
Right. Let's start with something I think we all feel right now, this sense that we're living through this totally unique moment of technological change.
Oh, definitely. Every new AI version seems to make the last one instantly obsolete. Feels like knowledge has a shelf life measured in weeks sometimes.
Yeah, this feeling of condensed time, as our sources call it, it's powerful.
It is, but what's fascinating and maybe a bit unsettling is that this isn't new. The sources point out that this exact feeling, this belief we're at a unique peak, has been around for, well, for over 70 years.
70 years, seriously.
Seriously. So if we've felt this way for, what, two-thirds of a century? It kind of makes you question how unique this moment really is, doesn't it?
It really does. So this constant hype about acceleration,
The paper argues it often disconnects AI from its history, from ethical considerations, social impacts, legal precedents. It sort of floats free.
okay, so if this feeling of rapid change is maybe more constant than we think, does that mean we're defining AI too narrowly? Like just focusing on the latest shiny thing?
That brings us right to the paper's really radical redefinition. It pushes us beyond just thinking about neural networks or LLMs.
So what's the definition they propose?
They define AI as any technosocial relationship that outsources to machines or algorithms some part, however small, of human cognitive labor.
Wow, okay. Any technosocial relationship, that's broad.
It really broadens the scope, doesn't it? It means we're looking at a much, much wider history. This outsourcing of thinking work, it's been happening for ages in all sorts of forms.
So it shifts the focus from the tech itself.
So the relationship between the technology and human thinking, human labor.
Okay, so how do we analyze these AI relationships? The sources give us a framework, right? A two-step thing.
Yeah, it's actually quite neat. Step one is basically just discern the relationship. Ask yourself, does this thing, this artifact, relate somehow to human cognitive labor?
So you look for machine words, algorithm, automation, and human words, cognition, labor, skill.
Exactly. If there's a connection, boom, you've got an AI relationship according to this definition.
Got it. And step two.
Step two is characterizing that relationship,
Uh-huh.
understanding how it connects to cognitive labor. And here they give us three main types. Importantly, they're not always mutually exclusive.
Okay, what are they?
First, there's displacement. This is generally seen as harmful. It tends to de-skill human cognition and often involves what they call maximal labor obfuscation,
Meaning the human input is hidden.
where the human in the loop is sort of invisible. Then you have enhancement. This is beneficial. It might reskill you or leave your cognitive abilities unaffected, and the human labor involved is usually pretty obvious, minimal obfuscation.
Like the first example we'll get to, maybe.
Potentially, yes. And finally, there's replacement. This is seen as neutral. It doesn't really affect your underlying cognitive skills, though there might be some labor obfuscation.
So this isn't just about labels. It's asking about the impact. Is it harmful, helpful, neutral? Does it de-skill us or reskill us? And how clear is the human role?
Precisely. Those are the key diagnostic questions. What's the valence? What's the effect on cognition? How much obfuscation is there? Is the human input transparent or opaque?
And this framework, it shows that AI is fundamentally human-centric.
Yes, but not because it's trying to be human. It's human-centric because it needs that human element. There's always that ghost in the machine, which, as the sources really stress, is often a literal person, or many people, doing cognitive work. but their contribution is hidden.
It's presented like magic between things, but it's really about people.
Exactly. A relationship between people, mediated by tech, often hiding that very fact.
That really shifts things. Okay, let's make this concrete. The sources use some great case studies. Computational aids first. Abacus, calculator, computer. Let's start with the abacus versus mental arithmetic. How does that fit?
Well, maybe surprisingly, to some, it's classed as enhancement.
Enhancement, really?
Yeah, it's seen as beneficial. Using an abacus properly actually teaches new calculation skills and demonstrably improves mental arithmetic alongside it.
Huh. Okay.
And think about it. An abacus needs an abacist for everything. It's just beads on wires if you don't know the techniques. Full human cognition is engaged. The input is totally transparent. It expands what you can do.
That makes total sense when you put it like that.
Okay.
Okay, next. The calculator versus doing sums in your head. How about that one? For, say, an adult who already knows arithmetic.
For an adult, typically replacement. It's neutral.
Sure.
Well, it gives you fast, verifiable answers. It doesn't necessarily make you forget how to add or subtract, although maybe, your long division gets a bit rusty if you never do it.
Okay. But I know teachers worry about kids using them too early. How does the framework handle that?
Ah, yes. And that's a crucial point the paper makes. The same technology can function differently depending on the context. For children still learning basic numeracy, the calculator can act as a harmful displacement.
Harmful, how?
It can actually get in the way of them developing those fundamental number skills. That's why they're often banned or their use restricted in primary schools.
So the relationship isn't fixed in the object itself. It depends on the user, the situation.
Exactly. The whole socio-technical context matters.
Fascinating. Okay, final one in this group. The digital computer versus the human computer. This sounds like a big one.
It is, and it's a clear case of displacement. Harmful and de-skilling, according to the sources.
Tell me more. Who were the human computers?
Think about the incredible women, often overlooked, like Katherine Johnson at NASA or the code breakers at Bletchley Park. They performed astonishingly complex calculations, debugging, even writing early software, all by hand or with mechanical aids. Their cognitive labor was immense and crucial.
I've read about Katherine Johnson, just amazing skills.
Truly. And this is where the sources introduced the term Pygmalion displacement.
Pygmalion displacement.
Yeah, it's where the original human innovators are replaced by the very technology they helped create, and then they're essentially written out of the story. Their skills, their contributions become invisible, obfuscated by the arrival of the electronic machines.
Wow, so their labor is just erased.
Pretty much. It's a stark illustration of the paper's point that algorithms are always already made, maintained, and sustained by humans.
Yeah.
You just don't see it as clearly once the machine takes over. The visible effort of the abacus user vanishes.
That's quite sobering, how easily that human element can be hidden and forgotten. Okay, let's widen the lens. Everyday technologies, things we might not even label AI. First up, the alarm clock versus the knocker-upper.
Yes, the knocker-upper. This is classified as replacement.
Replacement. Neutral, then.
Neutral, basically. The alarm clock just automates the job of the human alarm clock.
Yeah.
Like, there was famously a Mrs. Mary Smith in 1930s London who used a pea shooter to fire dried peas at windows to wake up dock workers.
A pea shooter. You couldn't make it up, so the clock replaced her job. Simple automation.
Pretty much. Although the sources add a little nuance. Even an alarm clock needs human supervision, right? It rings, but it doesn't force you out of bed.
Sure enough.
And there's a little tangent in the source about how clocks, more generally, evolved from tools serving us into tools of industrial control, measuring, pacing, dominating human life. A subtle shift.
From service to control. Interesting. Okay, what about the camera versus just seeing? Human vision.
That was categorized as enhancement.
Enhancement. Beneficial.
Yes, beneficial. It doesn't de-skill our vision. We still see just fine. Cameras enhance our ability to record memories, to recollect. Yeah. But the user, the photographer, is still fully in charge, framing the shot, making adjustments. Human input is transparent. It adds a capability.
Got it. And the last one, in this group, the garment factory versus the traditional seamstress or tailor.
This one's a big displacement. Harmful and de-skilling.
How so?
Well, think about the massive shift from bespoke clothing, durable, custom fit, made with skill, to today's fast fashion cycle. Relentless consumption of mass-produced, often poor quality stuff.
And the hidden labor.
Maximal labor obfuscation here. The human in the loop is the sweatshop worker, often underage, working in terrible conditions, completely hidden from the consumer by the low price tag.
And the original skill is lost.
Largely, yes.
Yeah.
And bespoke tailoring is still seen as superior, right? That tells you something about the quality and skill that were displaced. The machine didn't just replace labor, it replaced craft and shifted the remaining human input towards exploitation.
Okay, that brings us right up to the present. Contemporary AI, LLMs, image generators, chatbots. The sources are pretty blunt here, aren't they?
They are. They categorize all of these as displacement. Harmful, de-skilling, and involving maximal obfuscation. It's a strong claim.
A very strong claim.
Well, look at how they're framed. LLMs competing with essay writing, image generators positioned against artists, chatbots offered as companionship. They're set up as equivalents or competitors to human cognitive capacities.
But the sources say they're built on, what was the term?
Massive, exploitative ghost labor. That's the hidden human element again.
Yeah.
Crowdsourced workers, often in the Global South. They mentioned Kenyan workers paid less than $2 an hour by OpenAI, for example, constantly refining outputs, labeling data, doing the cognitive work that makes the systems appear capable.
They're the engine under the hood, but invisible.
Completely invisible to the end user.
So what about this idea of prompt engineering we hear so much about? Isn't that a new skill these systems require?
The sources really push back hard on that. They argue prompt engineering isn't really a deep skill in the way we might think. The real cognitive work, they argue, is often done by those hidden workers, or it's based on vast amounts of data scraped without real consent.
So the systems aren't really autonomous learners in the way they're sometimes portrayed?
The paper suggests they're more like helpless systems, constantly needing human care and curation and forcing us to adapt to their limitations, not the other way around.
And they touch on the psychological impact, too, especially with chatbots used for companionship. That sounds worrying.
Deeply worrying. The potential for psychological harm when people, especially vulnerable or lonely people, form attachments to systems designed to mimic human connection. It's significant.
It's like the echo chamber idea, but worse.
Kind of. The paper puts it starkly. The echo chamber is gone. The chamber is now empty of actual people. When we outsource our writing, our art, our social connection to these opaque corporate systems, what happens to our own voice, our own agency?
We risk losing something fundamental about being human.
That's the fear. Losing that reciprocity, that mutual understanding that defines real human interaction. It's not just tech changing, it's society changing in profound ways.
Okay, so stepping back from all these examples,
Yeah.
what's the big takeaway? How does this redefinition help us, the listeners, make sense of AI?
Well, the core message is that by redefining AI this way, by focusing on the relationship and the often hidden human labor, we can actually center the human. Not by chasing some mythical human-like machine, but by seeing the human that's already there in all these systems.
So it gives us tools.
Exactly. Critical tools. First, it helps us spot displacement. We can look at a new AI application and ask, is this de-skilling people? Is it hiding labor? Is it violating rights? And if so, we can act.
Okay, what else?
Second, we can demand real values. Things like transparency, fairness. They don't just magically appear in AI. This framework shows they are outcomes of social and technical choices, often struggles. They need to be actively fought for.
So don't just accept the marketing hype.
Definitely not, which is the third point. Reject the hype. Be skeptical of claims about human-like performance. Avoid anthropomorphizing these systems, treating them like people, because that just muddies the water.
And
Finally, embrace critical thinking. The sources warn against bad science, like equating statistical correlation with actual understanding, which is rampant in AI discussions. We need to be smarter consumers of these claims.
So it comes back to that uncomfortable truth you mentioned earlier.
Yeah. The idea that there are no Rube Goldberg-like perpetual motion-like human-in-the-loop free machines. They never will be. That ghost in the machine, it's real people. It's us. Our cognition shapes these tools and is shaped by them.
We can't get rid of the ghost.
But maybe we can stop treating the human element as ghostly, as invisible. We can make it visible, acknowledge it.
So accepting that truth that it's not magic, it's engineering plus often hidden human work, that's the way forward.
It seems to be the argument. Stop mystifying the machine. Start understanding the human relationships within the machine.
It leaves us with a pretty challenging thought, though. If these systems displace and de-skill us, the users, what happens when we also start to disappear from view, in a sense? When our unique voices, our art, our connections are mediated or even generated by these opaque systems?
What voice do we have left?
Exactly. What genuine human input remains? Something to really think about as you go about your day, interacting with all this technology.